Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I want to first thank our DFSS Commissioner, Brandy Kanazi, CDPH Commissioner, Dr. Simbo Ige, Pastor John Zayas of Grace and Peace Church, Deputy Mayor of Immigrant, Migrant, and Refugee Rights, Beatrice Ponce de Leon, and all of the clergy and city council members who have joined me today. As many of you all know, Chicago has received over 35,000 new arrivals since this mission began, and is currently housing nearly 15,000 asylum seekers. We are educating 500 migrant children in our Chicago public schools. The governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, has sent over 600 buses to our city, 500 of which arrived since I took office. And just today, the Texas governor was gloating about sending more than 100,000 asylum seekers to sanctuary cities, the vast majority of whom have no idea where they are going and what resources they will have access to. In response, my administration and our city have stepped up to meet this moment. We have stood up 28 temporary emergency shelters. We've done this across the entire city of Chicago. We provide over 300,000 meals per week. DFSS and OEMC have created an entire infrastructure and led the oversight of this system. This particular mission has grown exponentially over the past year. CDPH has led the way on healthcare coordination, providing thousands of health screenings and vaccinations, and healthcare triage under very challenging, difficult conditions. We've done this in partnership with the Cook County Health Department and other medical providers. We have worked with the faith community, the business community, the philanthropic community, labor, all levels of government to provide care for our new arrivals. We're working to help create a pathway to self-sufficiency and independence. This has been unprecedented. This challenge has certainly been a weight in our city. But the truth of the matter is, this has been a challenge for every municipality and every state government that is managing this crisis all over the country. In Massachusetts, for example, the state government established a statewide limit of 7,500 beds for 100 cities. Denver has instituted a 14-day limit for single individuals and 42 stays for families, making adjustments for weather just as we have. On February 6th, Denver will be discharging families again after this pause. New York instituted a 60-day limit for families and a 30-day limit for single individuals on October 16th and began discharging migrants from shelters on January 9th. They are continuing to do so as they grapple with nearly 70,000 new arrivals in their shelter system. Sanctuary cities across the country have done the most. We have done everything possible to welcome asylum seekers, and to make sure we're centering it around their humanity and doing it with some dignity. And while staying within their financial constraints, Chicago is no different. We initially instituted this 60-day limit in conjunction with the state's announcement of additional resources for resettlement and case management, because our plan for temporary emergency shelter was never meant as a long-term housing solution. But we want to give every person and every single family that has come to our city enough time to process their work authorization, find housing, start a new life in our great city. So we have made the decision to extend the shelter stay policy based on original exit dates from mid-January through the end of March. We will continue to assess this developing situation as we move through these winter months. We will also continue to advocate for Congress to find federal support and to have a federal response to this federal issue. But we will not stop working locally with our partners to find solutions to how we manage this humanitarian crisis. And with that, now I'm happy to bring to the podium DFSS Commissioner Brandy Canasi. She will speak to more specifics around this policy. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor, for that introduction. You're welcome. Hello, my name is Brandy Canasi, and I'm Commissioner for Chicago Department of Family and Support Services. As part of the New Arrivals mission, DFSS, in partnership with our city partners, continues to operate 28 shelters across the city supporting nearly 14,000 new arrivals. In the last 8 months, we have built a comprehensive model without a blueprint and little federal support, allowing us to offer enhanced case management, public benefits, legal services, and medical care. Since last summer, approximately 11,500 people from our shelters have resettled through the state's Housing Assistance Program led by Catholic Charities, and 4,100 individuals have outmigrated from the shelter system to connect with friends and family, living out the goals they came to Chicago when they came here. As of last week, 2,800 applications have been submitted to the U.S. Customs, Citizen, and Immigration Office, and nearly 1,011 applications have been approved for work authorizations. The emergency shelter system was built on the premise that shelter stays would be short-term, as we work with our county, state, federal, and nonprofit partners to help new arrivals develop a plan and get on their feet. Due to the extreme cold weather Chicago experienced over the last 2 weeks, we extended the exit dates for new arrivals who were set to leave shelter throughout the month of January. The new 60-day policy is as follows. Residents who have an exit date between January 16th and February 29th will be given a 60-day extension starting from their original exit date. For example, if an individual was scheduled to leave on January 16th, their new exit date is March 16th. There are approximately 5,673 people who fall into this category. Residents who received a 60-day notice and were scheduled to exit shelter between March 1st and March 28th will receive a 30-day extension from their planned exit date. There are approximately 2,119 individuals who fall into this category. Anyone new who enters the shelter system starting today will receive the standard 60-day notice. Finally, new arrivals who entered the shelter system between August 1st and November 16th, 2023 are eligible for the state's 3-month rental assistance program. There are approximately 5,910 individuals who fall into this category. They will begin to receive their 60-day notice starting February 1st. There were 8,800 individuals in this group in November, and currently 2,890 have already exited the shelter system. As a reminder, anyone who entered the shelter system after November 16th is not eligible for the state's housing resettlement program. To support residents in thinking about their onward movement and what it could look like at the end of their 60-day stay, shelter staff will roll out a multi-step process, including checkpoint assessments. These conversations include questions about access to resources and networks of support beyond shelter. Checkpoint assessments will take place at least 2 times after the 60-day notice is given. 1 2 weeks into their shelter stay, and the second 2 weeks before their exit date. Screening for the extension eligibility would occur at the second checkpoint. Only if residents state they anticipate needing shelter beyond their current exit date. As previously shared when we rolled out the 60-day policy, the general categories for extension that are eligible include progress to permanent or stable housing, severe weather conditions, disability, pregnancy or maternal health, gender-based violence, medical isolation, and bereavement. All efforts will be made to limit disruption and mitigate harm, especially for school-aged children. Prior to the school year, we worked closely with the Chicago Public Schools to enroll children this school year, and we will continue to partner with them through this process. Now, I would like to pass it to Dr. Ige, Commissioner for the Chicago Department of Public Health.
Thank you, Commissioner Kinazi. I am Dr. Simbo Ige. I am the Commissioner for Chicago Department of Public Health. I will be talking about the public health infrastructure that we have put in place to support the health of new arrivals. And that starts from when they arrive into the city, during their stay at the shelters, so that they are prepared for their onward journey. When new arrivals come into our city, they arrive at the landing zone. And our goal at that time is to ensure that we can identify any urgent health needs. So we have a protocol to ensure that questions are asked, which we call a screener, when people arrive, to identify if there are any medical emergencies, if they are a medical priority group, such as pregnant people, people with disability, and people who are immunocompromised. The reason for this is so that they can be prioritized in shelter placement. And we also provide services on site at the landing zone, including immunization. Now, when people are then transferred to the shelters, we provide services during their stay there to ensure that any health threats are identified and mitigated before they exit the shelter system. And some of the services that we provide at the shelter include infection prevention services. This in a situation where people are in a congregate setting, we provide guidance on how cleaning should be done, on how food will be handled, on how other infections will be prevented. Part of this support includes immunization to prevent vaccine-preventable diseases. To date, we have provided thousands of vaccination doses at all 28 shelters, including vaccination for COVID, vaccination for flu, vaccination for varicella, and vaccination for RSV. At the shelter, we also provide treatment services on site. We have partnership with 9 providers who are on site who provide behavioral health services, vaccination, treatment of medical illnesses on site at the shelters. We have now expanded the pool of providers from 9 to 26, and these providers support the shelters and also at the landing zone. We have also put in place protocols for outbreak interventions and investigation. In some previous months, in October, November, there were cases of streptococcal infection or varicella, and in such cases, we respond by investigating and putting control measures in place, and we're very happy to say that those have been successful. We have less than 1 case of varicella in the last 3 weeks, so we are very proud of that. We have also put in place processes to identify providers that can support the response. We started a survey about 3 weeks ago to identify additional providers that can provide support. Not everyone who has indicated interest has been able to start services, and that is to ensure there's continuity of services. So in some instances, we already have 6 vaccinators. So if a provider says we're interested in vaccination, we may not be able to bring them on for vaccination, but we can assign them to the landing zone to support other screening services. And we are very grateful to the partnership we have with Cook County Health that has also been supporting the comprehensive medical exam for all new arrivals. To date, Cook County Health has supported over 20,000 new arrivals for their comprehensive medical examination. This is so that if anyone is exiting our shelter, they are connected to a medical home. They know how to navigate the healthcare system, and if they have any chronic medical illness, communicable or not, it has been identified and they have been connected to care. And we're very appreciative of that partnership with Cook County Health. We also have partnership with federal qualified health centers. About 10 of them are supporting this process, including the medical examination, including vaccination, including treatment, and many of these services are provided with no additional funding. And so we're very appreciative of the voluntary support that we have received for many of these providers. And now we have a pool of 26 providers that are supporting the new arrivals, both at the landing site and also at the shelter. So our hope is that while our new arrivals are with us in in Chicago, there is no one that we miss. We are able to identify all the medical needs and respond to them so that they are well situated for their onward journey. And now I'm going to call on Pastor Zayas to share some updates with you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Iguari. I wanted to share my half is the benefit of why migrants are here and the fact that the city of Chicago is doing such a great work. You know, I don't know if you know this, but $11.6 billion of taxes is paid through immigration. Migrants pay 11.6. If you guys know that, immigration fuels the economy in our city. It fuels the economy in our world, in our communities. So immigration does a boost in this. Even when migrants move into communities, they build houses, they enter the fabric of community, and they begin to absorb and be part of the community. What has happened since August of 2022, when you look at the 35,000 migrants that have come, no one talks about the 20,000 migrants that are settled. No one talks about the housing that they've created. No one talks about the support that they've been in community. No one talks about the fact that they've been involved in churches and community groups. We had a young man, 14 years old, Jason Hayward at our sports academy was doing practice with some kids. This kid was 14. No one knew what to do with him because he was so advanced. Right? We're giving him some ground balls. This kid was just playing. They put him in the cage. Now we're trying to find a school that will take him.
Kenwood Academy.
I'm serious. We've got few migrants that can play ball, but we can't get them in because we're trying to get them situated and settled in. The fact is, they came for something beautiful, the American dream. And as we've been resettling families since we started our project in the Unity Initiative, and we've had 18% of our folks who are now in apartments, they're working. They're working. I don't know, but they're working. They're making lives for themselves. They didn't come here to be part of a system, but the help has helped them move forward. So the narrative that migrants are coming and taking everything is a bad narrative. I don't look at it as they're taking. It's an investment for the future of the city of Chicago and everything around our country. Because when they give back, they give back. They build, they pay taxes, they're involved in community. In 10 years from now, and the mayor would know this, in 10 years, he's going to be the one that has piloted through, that has fought through, come on, man, that has taken the courage. Come on. I'm a pastor, so I got to say it. That has taken the stance to give folks hope. I said this at our last press conference. I said it's about hope. It's about giving people a future. That's what this is all about. But let's talk about the success. We're under a fire hose of what Texas is doing. But I would tell Texas, you keep giving us these migrants. We understand you're doing that. But you're going to be held accountable for every action of how you treat people unhumane. And today we stand knowing that God is on our side. I'm sorry to say, but God is on our side when you think of people and love folks and show compassion for people. And so that's what we're trying to do. And so we're moving forward. Every life matters. Every person matters. And migrants matter. That's right. And I believe this is a fire starter. And I'm going to say this. Sometimes the homeless get looked past. But I believe this is the start of the conversation again about our folks on the street. That they matter. And this initiative and what we're doing doesn't just help migrants. It will help anybody who needs services and love and care. So our initiative, working alongside the city, has been successful because of the partnership of great leaders who are willing to take the risk and go forward, even though they may get hit. We stand alongside them. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Pastor Zayas. Thank you for those encouraging words and for the work of Grace and Peace in your network. We appreciate that. I'm Beatriz Ponce Leon, Deputy Mayor for Immigrant, Migrant, and Refugee Rights. I'm just going to do a very brief overview of some of the top points in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking viewers. Soy Beatriz Ponce Leon, vicealcaldesa de la Oficina de Inmigrantes, Migrantes y Refugiados para la ciudad de Chicago. Voy a hacer un resumen breve de algunos de los puntos claves que se presentaron hoy día. Estamos reunidos en esta tarde para brindar una actualización sobre la operación Nuestros Vecinos. Voy a compartir en español puntos claves nada más. En los últimos 8 meses, la ciudad de Chicago ha construido un sistema de refugios y de servicios de apoyo para asistir a los migrantes que han cruzado la frontera con México y llegado a Chicago, han sido transportados aquí por el gobernador de Texas. Hoy en día han venido aproximadamente 35,000 migrantes y la ciudad de Chicago les ha dado la bienvenida. En día tenemos casi 14,000 personas que son residentes de los refugios que hemos abierto. Son 28 refugios a través de la ciudad. A pesar de haber recibido muy poco apoyo del gobierno federal y que sabemos que esta realmente es una responsabilidad federal, la ciudad de Chicago ha podido lograr crear un sistema de 28 albergues donde ofrecemos refugio temporal para las personas que han llegado. Y en colaboración con el Estado y con el Condado de Cook, hemos podido ofrecer servicios que les ayudan a conectarse y ponerse en un plan de autosuficiencia. Porque la gente que viene aquí no viene a hacer algo pesado para el Estado o para el gobierno. Ellos vienen porque quieren crear una vida nueva, quieren vivir aquí, establecerse, trabajar y formar parte de nuestras comunidades. Voy a recalcar que realmente el objetivo final es proveer lo que las personas necesitan para que ellos mismos puedan seguir adelante en su camino aquí en Estados Unidos. Desde el verano pasado, aproximadamente 11,500 personas han sido reubicadas a través del programa de asistencia de vivienda del estado de Illinois que se maneja por Caridades Católicas y New Life Centers. Son más de 11,000 personas que han podido establecerse aquí en sus propios hogares. Y además, este programa también del estado ha ayudado a más de 4,000 personas a volverse a reunir con sus familiares o amistades en otras ciudades. En noviembre, la ciudad anunció una política nueva de estadía de 60 días. Esta política se basó y se implementó tomando en cuenta a la vez que se anunciaron varias inversiones estatales, incluyendo más de 2,000 camas que el Estado iba a abrir para proveer refugio durante el invierno y también apoyo adicional para el reasentamiento. Estos dos no se han logrado completamente, pero han influido la manera en que se ha desarrollado esta política. La operación Nuevos Vecinos está evolucionando día a día y hoy les comunicamos un cambio en esta política. La anunciada pausa que pasó hace 2 semanas de salidas de refugio debido a las condiciones del invierno climáticas adversas ha estado ahora en pausa. La ciudad extenderá las estadías para los residentes que aún no tengan planes de vivienda en progreso. Se aplicarán extensiones de 30 y 60 días para los residentes de refugios según las fechas originales de salida, los que iban a salir entre el 16 de enero hasta el 28 de marzo. Los detalles son así. Los residentes que tenían una fecha de salida entre el 16 de enero y el 29 de febrero recibirán una extensión de 60 días a partir de su fecha original. Por ejemplo, esto quiere decir que si la fecha original era el 16 de enero, ahora tienen que salir el 16 de marzo. Esto impacta aproximadamente a 5,673 personas. Los residentes que han recibido un aviso de 60 días y estaban programados para salir entre el 1 de marzo y el 28 de marzo recibirán una extensión de 30 días desde esa fecha de salida y esto afecta aproximadamente a 2,119 personas. Cualquier persona nueva que ingrese al refugio a partir de hoy recibirá el aviso general de 60 días. Y finalmente, para apoyar a los residentes que están en nuestros refugios, tendremos un impacto, un toque más personal para trabajar con ellos desde el inicio, para ver qué planes tienen en poder ellos mismos salir adelante de los refugios y seguir conectándolos con otros recursos. Finalmente, reconocemos y agradecemos a todas las organizaciones, las iglesias, los grupos comunitarios y residentes de Chicago que han apoyado a nuestros nuevos vecinos. Como han oído hoy, realmente este movimiento de inmigrantes a Chicago va con el tiempo a resultar en una situación positiva para nuestra ciudad. Y la ciudad de Chicago seguirá abogando por todas nuestras comunidades de inmigrantes, ya sea si llegaron hace 5 días o hace 5 años. Sabemos también que la mayoría de estas soluciones requieren acción federal y les alentamos a que aboguen por las políticas y los recursos que se necesitan en las ciudades santuarias como Chicago. Muchas gracias. Ahora con eso lo vuelvo a comunicar con el alcalde, Mayor Brandon Johnson. Thank you.
That last part. Thank you, Beatrice. All right. Thank you, Beatrice.
Well, good afternoon, Mr.
Good afternoon.
Mayor. Just 2 quick questions. The first one is what kind of assurances are you getting from the state and from the partner organizations that there will be housing for the people who may be approaching deadlines again in 60 days?
Right. So again, you know, the motivation behind the initial policy was centered around a very comprehensive operation, of which the state has resettled thousands of families. We already are seeing some reassurance because they have staffed up in our shelters, whether it's through Catholic Charities or New Life, that there are far more people who are available to help families resettle as fast as possible. And that's really the goal, is to make sure that we're resettling families as fast as possible, because we don't have any control over how many families will arrive. We are doing our very best to create some structure around what we do have control over. Thank you for that.
Hi, Mayor.
Hey.
This is Maria Berreyesa from Univision. So my question is kind of similar to his. We have heard a lot of concern of the migrant families once they are approaching this 60-day limit. So if you can explain, like step by step, what's going to be the process after they face the eviction process? What options do they have?
Well, again, the goal is to get them onto a path of sustainability and independence. You know, unfortunately, the governor of Texas has not been a cooperative partner in this endeavor. And the city of Chicago, we're doing everything that we can. Everything that we can. As I said before, there are other states that have placed caps. We haven't done that. You know, the city council members that are here today, you know, helped us pass a budget where, you know, we appropriated $150 million for this mission. And look, this is difficult for everyone. You know, migrants want a better life. There are people in Chicago who have been here who want a better life. That's why we've committed $250 million into the unhoused in this budget. We have a 3-year commitment for a homeless chief, but there are some limitations to what we can do. This is literally unprecedented. Do you all realize this has never happened in the history of the United States of America, where a municipality is being asked, not even just being asked, we've established a migrant refugee settlement. That has never happened in the history of imperialism. The closest example could be, you know, what happened with Cambodians, Laotians, and South Vietnamese, where you had the International Rescue Committee that established an infrastructure with 16 cities. It took them 21 years to resettle 2 million people. We've resettled thousands of them in a matter of months. And by the way, we did that in 2023 without a budget, because the previous city council didn't even budget for this. So we have stood up 28 shelters, 5,000 children are in schools. You just heard from both of our commissioners providing health screenings. The county is stepping up. We're literally doing something that has never been done in the history of imperialism. And so we're working hard, but there are limitations to this operation, and we're doing our very best to provide as much hope and opportunity for people who want to live in Chicago.
Hey, Mayor. How much of the city's $150 million that was budgeted for this year has been spent? And you're forecasting, when do you expect to extend all of that money? And do you already plan to have to do a mid-year budget amendment to appropriate more?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. Ask me about my next year's budget. It's $1.5 million a day. It's $1.5 million a day. We've said that. That's not breaking news, maybe for some people, but it's $1.5 million a day. We're in the 26th day.
Hi, Mayor. Thanks. Hey. I noticed there are 187 people still awaiting shelter at O'Hare. Theoretically, I guess, had space been opened up in the shelters, they would have moved into a shelter. So do they continue to wait, or is maybe more space opening up in the faith-based community?
Well, first of all, thank you for acknowledging the space that the faith community has provided. So we are literally organizing the philanthropic community, the faith community, government. No one else in the country is doing what the city of Chicago is doing. No one. It's not happening anywhere. And remember when there were thousands of migrants who were in police districts? And I said I would fix that. We did it. We did it. And it wasn't easy, but we have a very, very strong, dedicated group of people who love this city, who are working hard to find shelter. And so as space becomes available and as we resettle families, of course, we're going to make room. Remember, at one point, it was 500 people just in O'Hare. Remember that? And so, look, people are working hard. They really are. And I'm grateful for the people of Chicago, because this has been hard on everyone. But we have not flinched. And we're still opening up 2 mental health clinics. We still dedicated $100 million of violence prevention. The good effort of our vice mayor and the Black Caucus, a brand new office for reentry, $5 million. We committed another $76 million to make sure that youth employment, of which we already had a 20% increase from the previous summer. So we haven't had to cut services. We have not stopped our agenda. We still abolished sub-minimum wage. Thank you, Alder Fuentes. Paid time off. Like, our agenda has not stopped. And, of course, we're going to continue to find shelter as it becomes available. But this is, the federal government has to do more. We know that. President Biden has put forth the package. Congress needs to act. This is not sustainable. I've been saying it. I'm going to continue to say it. But we're going to continue to bring people together to do the very best I can, the very best that we can to provide support for these families. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor.
Hey. I'm sorry about the snow. I know how eager you are to get back to snowboarding. So before you I just want you to know, I just kind of sized you up, and it's good to know that my intuition was right. So maybe one day we can do an exclusive with the two of us doing some snowboarding, and you get to ask me whatever you want as I go down the hill.
We'll work on that.
All right.
Okay. You mentioned the cost already. I kind of wanted to dovetail off that.
Yeah.
Is that really what's driving this? I mean, your need to empty the shelters because we have a finite amount of resources, we have a finite amount of money, and it seems at this point that Congress is not willing to act to extend additional dollars?
Well, what's driving it is that we also want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence to be responsible stewards of our resources. And before we implemented this policy, and Commissioner Kanazi, she could speak to it eloquently, there were still people in shelter from 2022. Yep. And it's temporary emergency shelter. So for instance, it's not the ideal situation. It was never meant to be permanent shelter. So I have an enclosed porch. We don't sleep out there. But in an emergency, being responsible with the resources that we have, that's my fiduciary. Now, as you all know, we got a credit rating upgrade over the summer. So all the work that we have done to demonstrate that we can be good stewards while also building an operation that's centered around people's humanity, that's what this collection has been about since I've been in office. You know, so what's driving it too is the fact that since the policy, we had 1,100 people find their way on their own. So there are multiple things that are provocating this work, but make no mistake about it, unless the federal government invests in this mission, local municipality is not designed to carry this mission. But yet somehow we've managed, but it's not sustainable.
Hi, Mayor. You have mentioned several times about the limitations. Do you think it's time to persuade the migrants to come into Chicago? That's my first question. And my second question is, we have confirmed through different sources in Telemundo the presence of a criminal organization from Venezuela among the migrants, El Tren de Aragua. What is CPD doing to face that or to address that threat? Thank you.
You know, look, when migrants are on buses, they don't know where they're going. They don't know. This is the part that's so raggedy and reckless and evil about the governor of Texas. He's not even giving them the dignity to actually have a conversation about where they might want to go. So irresponsible. That is so irresponsible. You know, as far as, so I guess all I'm saying is that whether it's Denver, New York, or anywhere else, it doesn't have to just be Chicago. So when refugees from the Ukraine were being settled in the city of Chicago, 30,000 of them are here. Is anyone having a press conference about Ukrainian asylum seekers? What's the difference? What's the difference? That is the irresponsibility in this moment. Now, unfortunately, you know, institutional racism is built in the fabric of this society. Thank God for a coalition of people who can blow through that. But it is irresponsible. And if we had the same federal support that Ukrainians received when they were seeking asylum in Afghanistan, Afghans, thank you. Yes, I haven't had lunch yet. As far as, you know, the reports, you know, I have not, you know, heard those reports about any sort of criminal element.
Let's see. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
You skipped a question about what are you going to do when the money runs out. You said 100 days. That's the 1.5. Well, so what happens after that?
So I don't know if we were asked that. I think the question was, how much is it costing?
Right. So then
Okay, so I got you. That I just don't want. I didn't skip a question. Okay, because I think it's important that as a public school teacher, I don't skip questions. So I think we should answer all questions. Look, the state of Illinois and the county, you know, to their credit, have appropriated dollars, you know, for this mission. What I've said repeatedly is that this is not sustainable. It's not. And so the federal government has to lean in. Now, you know, as far as what we do, because the costs are $1.5 million conservatively a day, we're going to have to push the federal government to do its part because we have limitations. That's all we have right now.
So is the city trying to say that you are pulling back on your plans, you're not going to open any more shelters, and that's it?
Our plan is still the same, to build an operation that's centered around people's humanity. And just keep in mind, I just hope you all hear this. There's nowhere else in the world that's doing it like this. Nowhere else in this country. And the only reason why I'm lifting that up is because as hard as we are working to address this crisis, it would be nice to have some partners outside of the state of Illinois and at the federal level to help us. You have faith leaders, philanthropic leaders, the business community, government, all doing something that has never been done before. And quite frankly, it is not designed to do. It's just not. So this is an evolving mission. We're working hard every single day to continue to advocate for resources. Many of you all know that I've spoken with mayors from other surrounding cities. The governor, the state of Illinois has offered $40 million for other municipalities. Remember that, you all? Remember when he offered that? And then remember he offered another $11 million? So we know that it can't just be the city of Chicago. Everybody knows that. But we're going to do the very best that we can to drive this mission and to challenge people to step up.
When you went over the new eviction dates and the groups that will be leaving 30 days out and then the 60-day delay, what will happen now with new migrants? Say that there are buses that are going to be coming over the next several weeks. If no new shelter beds will open, what is the plan for?
Well, remember the state of Illinois committed to 2,200 beds, right? And so far they have 200. There's still a commitment to 2,000 more beds. And again, the goal is, of course, is to resettle families as fast as we can to make sure that we are able to handle the flow in the event that it picks up again. Thank you for that question.
Hi, Mayor.
Hey.
I heard Dr. Ige announce new sort of efforts to ensure that the shelters are clean and appropriate places. Did you know that the October 27th email about the conditions at the Pilsen Cell where Juan Carlos Rivera lived, did you see that email, and did the city take appropriate responses to address those conditions that the migrants were being forced to live in?
Well, first of all, Dr. Ige has not offered up she talked about an expansion of services, health screenings, infectious disease control. I mean, these are efforts that have been in place, but we're talking about an expansion because at the time, of course, the influx of migrants had not reached this volume. The city took immediate action, as we do with other there have been times when there have been shelters have expressed that there's needs to be addressed, right? And so there's been a variety of element that we've had to address, and we responded to it as soon as we got the email.
Mayor, if I can work across the aisles as you try to do, my colleague Sarah Schultz just had to walk out for a live shot. So I'm asking a question for her before I get to mine, if it's okay.
That's fine.
Any movement with the state, with the money that they've got offered, to build any new shelters?
Look, the state of Illinois is committed to building new shelters. They are. There are a number of locations in which those shelters can be built. The only thing that I've asked from the state is that if there are other sites that they are considering, that they're well within their right to do that. If a shelter is to be built in the city of Chicago or outside the city of Chicago, that the state could do that. Remember, before I was mayor, the state of Illinois, they housed migrants. Remember that? I believe the state of Illinois, they housed about 2,000 migrants for about 5 months. And was it a little bit more, 6 months?
It was about 3,000 to 4,000. They were much more higher than that.
So about 3,000 to 4,000 at the time they were, thank you for that. So the state of Illinois was housing about 3,000 to 4,000 migrants. And then, of course, they stopped doing that. But what I can tell you, though, I do know that though we have done it quickly, and I know maybe because we have some dynamic people who work at the city of Chicago, that maybe we have made it look easy. I can tell you it's not. It's hard because some of these facilities, they don't have showers, they don't have bathrooms, so we have to build up showers and to build up bathrooms. So there's a whole host of things that's involved there. But the state of Illinois can move today to build a shelter, and I'm confident that will take place.
On to my question, and thank you for that indulgence. Wednesday, the resolution calling for the ceasefire is expected to come up for a vote. Mm-hmm. It has been a very divisive issue. Do you have concerns that with this vote on Wednesday, it could have long-term ramifications for how well members of the City Council cooperate and get along with one another?
Look, as many of you all know, my position has been very clear. We need a ceasefire. We need all hostages to be released. This has gone on This has gone on for a very long time. This has been a conflict. I don't believe that one vote ruins our ability to make sure that democracy continues to prevail. We're the city of Chicago. We're the United States of America. I mean, you would think that would be more of a concern when you have an entire group of people who stormed the Capitol. We had an insurrection, you all, in the 21st century. And there are people who have not accepted the results of the Civil War. They've made it very clear that they want a rematch. You know, look, it is a very divisive time right now, you know, and this is where leadership prevails as well. I haven't flinched. I've kept our campaign promises. You know, we continue to work with every sector of the city of Chicago, faith community, philanthropic community, business community. Spent a lot of time with community-based organizations, and I spend time with my colleagues. And one vote won't ruin this city. It won't. And there are people who are surrounding me who can tell you there's been tumultuous times that were far more severe than the ones we are experiencing. I mean, Alderman Burnett wasn't there, but you had aldermen standing on top of tables and doing all kind of ridiculous stuff. I'm not encouraging that behavior, by the way. I'm just saying it's been bad before and we survived.
Hi, Mayor. Would you say that the extension announcement today is a direct response to the letter signed by 16 alder people? And then, you mentioned that you were confident about the state in providing the additional 2,000 beds. Are you happy with the rate of speed that they're moving at? Because it seems like we'll need those beds soon.
This response of this 60-day extension is a direct result of the collective body that you see standing with me. Look, I've always said that this is an evolving crisis. The ability of my administration to be nimble and flexible, I've demonstrated that. But remember that the onslaught of this policy was also part of a broader strategy. And that leads to your second question. We all know we need to move as quickly as possible. We have daily conversations. The state, the county, the city, we talk on a regular basis. And, I'm grateful for the partnership that we have. But again, this really lies at the front door of Congress. Congress actually has to engage in a real way. And, again, it's unfortunate, though, that we have the governor of Texas that, what did he say about a month ago? He said that he has done everything at the border except for shoot people because he doesn't want to be charged with murder. These are his words, Joe. I'm not making this up. I just wish, and I'm hopeful that this room could see the full context. I get it. We're covering Chicago politics. I get that. It's a very exciting thing to do. And we have to have a real global context to this. The European Union, it took them 3 years to solve this issue. For the same issue, it took them 3 years to come together as an entire region. And that's why I'm working with mayors around the country, working with mayors around the region, state, county, philanthropic community, faith community. I'm working hard, y'all. But I'm glad to do it in the best freaking city in the world, city of Chicago.
Hi, Mayor. Is the city still in the midst of trying to move away from relying on favored staffing? And how is that going as it pertains to finding alternatives?
Well, as you remember, when we passed the first set of appropriations, when I was just sworn in, I told you all that 47 of the 51 million went to one group favored staffing. We renegotiated, that contract. At one point, Commissioner Kanazi, I believe it was 6%. Was it 9%? It was 9%. About 9% of workers were out of the city of Chicago. We're now almost at 30%. What's for the region?
It's for the region.
30% for the region, yeah. So that number has grown. As you all know, that we've worked to find food vendors that have the cultural competency that's necessary. So this is an ongoing, effort to make sure that we can meet the demands, as your colleague asked about the cost per day, which is $1.5 million roughly. But we're going to continue to do everything that we can to make sure that we can provide quality service within the budget parameters that have been established within this fiscal year.
Hi, Mayor.
Hey.
Are you expecting more faith leaders to step up and offer shelter space to kind of respond to this new policy? And what's the latest on the Archdiocese of Chicago or Catholic Charities helping provide?
Yeah, well, the
space?
Archdiocese, the Catholic, we've been in constant conversations with the Archdiocese, and there's some locations that have been identified. The county has made a commitment to help provide some of the build out that I talked about. Some of these facilities are not equipped to handle. Their facilities cannot handle 300, 400 people without upgrades to the bathrooms, showers, things of that nature. And yes, Pastor Zayas, there are a number of faith leaders, who want to help, but it is a matter of financial support as well. So we're working with the philanthropic community. There's a foundation that we're working with now. Zakat. Yeah, Zakat. I'm saying it wrong. That's 2 words today. We need to hurry up. That's another foundation that we're working with to put resources towards the faith community. These individuals are ready to serve. It's just a matter of having the resources to do it.
Hi, Mayor.
Hey.
With the extension and the 16 alder people who have called for this to just be indefinitely suspended, is this, over the course of the next few weeks, going to continue to be reevaluated if conditions do change, say?
Well, there are some exceptions that we laid out that, throughout this entire process, that those exceptions have been laid out from the very beginning. And again, the whole point of this operation was designed around a broader strategy. This is temporary emergency shelter. It is not meant for long-term shelter. It's not. These are warehouses, gyms. This is not. That's sanctuaries, right? So it's temporary emergency shelter. That's what it is. It's not permanent, long term.
Hi, Mayor.
Are you the last question?
I think so. I have 2.
When I taught middle school, no one was ever this excited in my class. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Do you know how many of the nearly 2,000 migrants who were set to leave shelter on February 1st have found housing? And did that contribute to your decision to postpone this deadline?
Perfect. Yeah. So there were approximately 1,929 people that were set to leave on 2/1. That was from January 16th to the 29th. There are about right now 723 people who are connected to rental assistance are in some process of finding housing.
All right, thank you all very much.
Mayor, did that contribute to your decision to postpone this deadline?
Look, being flexible and having some nimbleness in this mission is what we have always set out to do. We have studied this policy in regions all over the country. And our goal, of course, is to continue to build an operation that's centered around people's humanity. And so as mayor of the city of Chicago, I have a responsibility to continue to make sure that every other aspect of the city continues to run. Again, we're preparing to open up 2 mental health clinics, $250 million into the unhoused. We're moving forward with our Office of Reentry, preparing our young people to work this summer. There's development that continues to happen throughout the city of Chicago. There's so many other things that are happening in the city of Chicago, and I understand why there's a hyper focus here. You all know that our homicides are down, shootings are down. Even in the months of January, we're already seeing robberies, vehicular carjackings down, shootings are down, homicides are down, our credit score is up. It's an amazing freaking city, isn't it, you all? Thank you all very much.